She was desperate enough to beg a stranger for help. Her fingers shook as she typed, asking for money to feed her baby. What she didn't know, the biker who received her message had spent his whole life being judged by his appearance. And he wasn't just sending money. He was coming to make sure she was safe. The rain hammered against the window like it had a personal grudge against the glass. Rachel Harper sat on the edge of her second-hand couch, the kind with springs that poked through if you sat in the wrong spot, and stared at her phone through blurry eyes. The apartment was cold. The heater had given up 2 weeks ago, and she couldn't afford to fix it. In her arms, 8-month-old Lily whimpered, her tiny face scrunched up in hunger. Rachel had already watered down the last of the formula that morning. There was nothing left. "Shoo, baby, please," Rachel whispered, rocking her gently. "Mama's trying." Her phone showed 11:47 p.m. Too late to call anyone decent. But desperation didn't care about the time. Rachel scrolled through her contacts until she found the number for Linda Hayes, the volunteer coordinator at Mercy Street Church. Linda had helped her twice before with emergency food vouchers. Rachel hated asking again. Hated feeling like a charity case. But Lily's cries were getting weaker, and that scared her more than her pride ever could. She typed quickly, her thumbs shaking. "Linda, I'm so sorry to bother you this late. I know I already asked for help last month, but I'm completely out of formula and Lily hasn't eaten since this morning. Is there any way the church fund could help? I get paid Friday and I'll pay back every cent. I promise. I'm desperate." She hit send before she could overthink it. Rachel pressed her lips to Lily's warm forehead and closed her eyes. The rain kept falling. The apartment stayed cold. And somewhere in the background, her phone buzzed with a reply that would change everything. 300 miles away, Marcus "Tank" Holloway sat astride his Harley-Davidson at a lonely gas station off Interstate 40. The rain had forced him to pull over, and now he stood under the flickering fluorescent lights, pumping gas and thinking about nothing in particular. At 6'4" and 250 pounds of solid muscle, Tank looked exactly like what most people assumed he was: trouble. His arms were covered in dark ink, his beard was thick and untamed, and the leather vest he wore displayed patches from a dozen motorcycle rallies. The vest also showed a single embroidered line across the back: "Ride for the kids." His phone buzzed in his pocket. Tank glanced at it, expecting a message from one of his club brothers about their route to tomorrow's charity rally in Nashville. Instead, he saw a number he didn't recognize. He almost ignored it. Almost. But something made him open the message. "Linda, I'm so sorry to bother you this late. I know I already asked for help last month, but I'm completely out of formula and Lily hasn't eaten since this morning. Is there any way the church fund could help? I get paid Friday and I'll pay back every cent. I promise. I'm desperate." Tank read it twice. A wrong number. Obviously. Some woman thinking he was someone named Linda from a church. He should have deleted it and moved on. That's what the old Tank would have done, the one who'd spent 15 years building walls around himself so thick that nothing got through. But that single word, desperate, hit him like a punch to the chest. He knew desperate. He'd lived it. As a kid, he'd been that hungry. He remembered his mother, strung out and absent, leaving him alone for days. He remembered knocking on neighbors' doors, begging for food, and hearing locks click instead of kindness. He remembered the hollow ache in his stomach that felt like it would swallow him whole. Tank stared at the message for a long moment, rain dripping off the gas station awning above him. Then he did something he couldn't quite explain. He typed back. "This isn't Linda. You've got the wrong number. But I can help. How much do you need?" He hit send and immediately felt ridiculous. What was he doing? He didn't know this person. This could be a scam. People ran cons like this all the time, didn't they? But his phone buzzed again almost immediately. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I must have typed the number wrong. Please ignore that. I didn't mean to bother you. Tank could feel the embarrassment radiating through the screen. He typed quickly. You're not bothering me. I'm serious. How much formula do you need? There was a longer pause this time. Tank watched the 3 little dots appear and disappear twice before the next message came through. I can't take money from a stranger. That's not right. Thank you though. Really? Tank clenched his jaw. Pride. He recognized that too. The kind of pride that kept you hungry because admitting you needed help felt like admitting you'd failed. He typed, look, I don't know your situation, but I know what it's like to be desperate. I've been there. Let me help. No strings attached. You don't even have to tell me your name. Another long pause. Then. Why would you do that for someone you don't know? Tank thought about that. Why was he doing this? He could have ignored the message. Could have written it off as not his problem. But something about it felt different. Felt important. Because someone should have done it for me when I was a kid. And they didn't. How much do you need? This time, the response came faster. $45 would get me enough formula for the week. But I'll pay you back. I swear. I get paid Friday. Tank didn't hesitate. He opened his payment app and sent her $100. I sent you $100. Get some food for yourself too. And don't worry about paying me back. Just take care of your baby. He could almost feel the shock through the phone. When she replied, he could tell she was crying. I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough. You just saved us tonight. I won't forget this. Thank you so much. Tank felt something crack open in his chest, something he'd kept locked down for years. He typed one more message. You and your baby safe tonight? Yes. We're okay now. Because of you. Tank pocketed his phone and finished filling his tank. The rain was starting to let up. He should have climbed back on his bike and headed to the rally. Should have forgotten about the whole thing. But he didn't. Instead, he stood there in the parking lot, wondering who this woman was. Wondering what kind of situation left someone that desperate at midnight. Wondering if $100 was really enough. By the time he got back on his bike, Tank had already made a decision he couldn't fully explain. He wasn't going straight to Nashville. First, he was going to find out where that message had come from. Just to make sure she was really safe. Just to check. That's what he told himself, anyway. The engine roared to life beneath him, and Tank pulled back onto the dark highway, heading toward a destination he didn't even know yet, and a connection that would change 2 lives forever. Behind him, the gas station lights faded into the rainy night. Ahead of him, everything was about to get complicated. Tank found a 24-hour diner 15 miles down the highway. The kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like it had been brewing since the Clinton administration. He slid into a corner booth, his leather vest squeaking against the seat, and ordered black coffee from a waitress who looked too tired to care about his appearance. The rain drummed steadily against the window. Tank pulled out his phone, staring at the message thread. He should leave it alone. The woman had her money. Her baby would eat. His good deed was done. But something nagged at him. He typed, "Hey, I know this is weird, but are you really okay?" That message sounded pretty serious. He waited, sipping the bitter coffee. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. He figured she'd gone to sleep, or maybe she thought he was some kind of creep now. He wouldn't blame her. Then his phone buzzed. "I'm okay. Lily finally fell asleep after I fed her. I still can't believe what you did. I've been sitting here crying for 20 minutes. Tank felt that crack in his chest widen a little more. Lily's your daughter? Yes. She's 8 months old. The light of my life and the reason I keep fighting. You shouldn't have to fight alone. There was a pause before she responded, I don't have much choice. Her father left before she was born. My family disowned me for getting pregnant. It's just us now. Tank's jaw tightened. He knew that kind of alone. The kind where the world decided you weren't worth helping. What's your name? He typed. Rachel. Rachel Harper. What's yours? Marcus. But everyone calls me Tank. Tank? Like a military thing? More like a, I'm built like one thing, he added a simple smiley face, hoping to lighten the mood. LOL. Thank you, Tank. Really? You're a good person. He wasn't sure about that. Good people didn't have the kind of past he had. But tonight, maybe he'd done one good thing. That had to count for something. His phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't a text. It was a voice note. Tank hesitated, then hit play. Rachel's voice came through, soft and exhausted. I'm sorry, I wanted you to hear how much this means. In the background, a baby cooed softly. That's Lily. She's happy now because her belly's full. Because of you. I don't know what kind of person sends money to a complete stranger at midnight, but you're an angel. Thank you. Tank sat frozen in the booth, the phone pressed to his ear even after the message ended. The baby's coo echoed in his mind, mixing with memories he'd buried deep. He was 7 years old again, sitting on a stained carpet in a dark apartment, his stomach cramping with hunger. His mother was passed out on the couch, an empty bottle on the floor beside her. He'd cried that night, not loud, because loud crying made her angry, but soft, desperate little sounds just like that baby. Nobody had come. Nobody had helped. Nobody had cared enough to check if a 7-year-old boy was okay. Tank's hands trembled as he set the phone down. The waitress refilled his coffee without asking, and he nodded his thanks without really seeing her. He picked up his phone again and typed, Rachel, I need to ask you something straight. Are you safe right now? I mean really safe. Not just tonight, but in general. The 3 dots appeared immediately. Why are you asking that? Because I grew up hungry. I grew up alone. And I grew up knowing what it sounds like when someone's barely holding on. Your message tonight. It reminded me of something I don't like remembering. A longer pause this time. I'm safe from danger, if that's what you mean. But safe from losing everything? No. I'm 2 weeks behind on rent. My boss keeps cutting my hours at the grocery store. And Lily's father might come back into the picture, which terrifies me more than being broke. Why does he terrify you? Because Evan doesn't want to be a father. He just wants to use Lily to hide from his own problems. He owes money to dangerous people, and I think he's planning to file for custody just to manipulate the situation. I can't let him take her. Tank's protective instincts kicked in hard and fast. He'd seen men like that before. Users. Manipulators. The kind who'd destroy lives just to save their own skin. Where are you located? He typed before he could stop himself. Why? Just tell me what town. Millbrook. It's a small town in Tennessee. Why? Tank pulled up a map on his phone. Millbrook was 40 miles east of where he was supposed to be heading for the rally. A detour. Not a big one. I'm going to be passing through that area tomorrow. I'd like to check on you and Lily. Face to face. Just to make sure you're really okay. Tank, you don't have to do that. I know I don't have to. I want to. There was a long silence. Then, okay. But I'm warning you, my apartment is pretty depressing. I've seen worse. They exchanged a few more messages, her address, a time that worked around her shift at the grocery store. When Tank finally put his phone away, the rain had stopped and the first hint of dawn was breaking through the clouds. He paid for his coffee, left a generous tip, and walked back to his motorcycle. His club brothers were going to give him hell for this detour. They'd call him soft. Say he was being stupid. Maybe he was. But as Tank started his engine and pulled back onto the empty highway, heading toward Millbrook instead of Nashville, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The sun was climbing higher when Tank pulled into a rest stop 30 miles outside Millbrook. His phone had been buzzing for the last hour, messages from his club brothers wondering where he was. He checked the group chat. Reaper, yo Tank, where you at? Rally starts in 3 hours. Dusty, he probably found a pretty waitress. Give him time. Reaper, Tank doesn't do pretty waitresses. He does brooding and silence lol. Tank smirked despite himself. They weren't wrong. He'd spent the last 15 years keeping people at arm's length. Easier that way. Less messy. He typed back, got sidetracked. Gonna be late. Start without me. Reaper, sidetracked? You? What happened? Dusty, did your bike break down? Need us to come get you? Tank hesitated. How could he explain this without sounding crazy? He'd sent money to a stranger and was now riding out of his way to check on her. Put like that, it sounded insane. Personal thing. I'll catch up tomorrow. Reaper, personal? Tank's got a personal life now? Someone alert the media. Dusty, everything okay, man? Yeah. Just something I gotta do. He pocketed his phone and walked to the vending machine, grabbing a bottle of water and a protein bar that tasted like cardboard. As he ate, he couldn't shake the restless feeling in his gut. Rachel's voice note kept replaying in his head. That baby's soft coo. The exhaustion in Rachel's voice. The desperate gratitude. But it was more than that. It was the memory that voice note had unlocked, the one he'd spent decades trying to bury. Tank closed his eyes and he was 7 again. His mother, Linda Holloway, sprawled on their apartment couch with needle tracks on her arms. The electricity had been shut off. It was winter. He'd wrapped himself in every piece of clothing he owned and still shivered through the night. He'd knocked on Mrs. Patterson's door next door, the old woman who always smelled like lavender soap. Please, he'd said, his voice small. Do you have any food? My mom's sick and I'm really hungry. Mrs. Patterson had looked at him with something that might have been pity. Or might have been disgust. He could never tell which. Your mother needs to get herself together, she'd said. I'm not enabling her lifestyle by feeding you. Then she'd closed the door. Tank had stood in that hallway for 10 minutes, staring at the closed door, wondering what he'd done wrong. Wondering why being hungry was his fault. He'd tried 3 more apartments that night. 2 didn't answer. 1 told him to go to school and eat there, even though it was Saturday. He'd gone to bed hungry. Again. Tank opened his eyes, his jaw clenched tight. The memory burned like acid in his chest. He'd been that desperate kid with nowhere to turn, and the world had looked the other way. When he'd gotten older, much older, he'd found the motorcycle club. They'd given him purpose. Every year they raised money for children's hospitals. Organized toy drives. Donated to foster care programs. Tank threw himself into that work like a man possessed. Because every kid they helped was the kid he used to be. Every donation was the help he'd never received. But Rachel's message had cut deeper than any of that. She was alone right now. Tonight. Not in some abstract future. And her baby was hungry right now. Not theoretically. He could help right now. His phone buzzed with another message from the group chat. Reaper, Alright, we're heading out. Meet us at the hospital when you can. And Tank? Whatever this is, be careful, man. Dusty, yeah, don't do anything stupid. You're the smart one, remember? Tank smiled slightly. Smart? That was debatable. Smart people didn't ride 300 miles to check on strangers. Smart people minded their own business. But Tank had never been accused of being too smart. He climbed back on his bike and started the engine. The guilt that had been gnawing at him since last night intensified with every mile closer to Millbrook. What if Rachel was in real danger? What if her ex was worse than she'd let on? What if that $100 wasn't nearly enough? The landscape changed as he rode, flat farmland giving way to rolling hills dotted with small towns that looked frozen in time. Millbrook appeared on a road sign, 15 miles. His phone rang. Not a text this time, an actual call. Unknown number. Tank pulled over and answered. Hello? Tank? Rachel's voice was shaky. I'm sorry to call. I know we said this afternoon, but something happened. His entire body tensed. What happened? Are you okay? I'm fine. Lily's fine. It's just. My boss called. He's cutting my hours starting next week. Down to 15 hours. I can't survive on 15 hours, her voice cracked. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called. You already helped so much. I just needed to tell someone and I don't have anyone else to tell. Tank's hands tightened on the handlebars. Rachel, listen to me. I'm already on my way. I'm 15 minutes out. What? You're already coming today? Yeah. I left early. Give me your address again. She gave him the street and apartment number, her voice uncertain. Tank, you really don't have to. I know I don't have to. I'll see you in 15 minutes. He hung up before she could protest further and gunned the engine. The rally in Nashville would go on without him. His brothers would understand eventually. Or they wouldn't. Either way, Tank was already committed. He was going to Millbrook. And he was going to make sure Rachel and that baby were truly safe, even if it meant turning his entire life upside down. Rachel stood in front of her bathroom mirror, trying to make herself look presentable. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, her hair was pulled into a messy bun, and her t-shirt had a stain on the shoulder from where Lily had spit up that morning. This is as good as it gets, she muttered to her reflection. She'd been up since 5 a.m., pacing the apartment, second-guessing everything. What was she doing inviting a stranger, a biker she'd never met, to her home? Was she insane? But something in Tank's voice, in his messages, felt genuine. Safe. Or maybe she was just that desperate for human connection. Lily babbled from her playpen in the living room, chewing on a plastic ring. At least one of them was having a good morning. Rachel's phone buzzed. A text from her manager, Derek. Derek, need to talk to you when you come in today. Important. Her stomach dropped. Important was never good. Important meant bad news wrapped in corporate speak. She texted back, I'll be there at 2. Rachel glanced at the clock, 10:47 a.m. Tank would be here any minute. Then she had to get to work for the closing shift. Then she had to figure out how to stretch $15 until Friday. The math didn't work. It never did. A low rumble echoed from outside, the unmistakable sound of a motorcycle. Rachel's heart jumped into her throat. She picked up Lily, holding her close, and moved to the window. Tank had expected a rough neighborhood. What he found was worse. The Brookside apartments looked like they'd given up on life sometime in the 90s. Peeling paint, cracked sidewalks, and windows covered with foil or bed sheets instead of curtains. A few residents eyed his motorcycle with suspicion as he rolled through the parking lot. Building C, apartment 214. Second floor. Tank parked and killed the engine. The silence felt heavy. He climbed the exterior stairs, his boots echoing on the metal steps, and found Rachel's door. Before he could knock, it opened. Rachel stood there, a baby on her hip, looking both terrified and relieved. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe 25, with brown hair and eyes that had seen too much too soon. "Tank?" she asked quietly. "Yeah." "Rachel?" She nodded, stepping back slightly. "You're really tall." Tank was used to that reaction. "Sorry. Can't help it." An awkward silence stretched between them. Then Lily reached out her tiny hands toward Tank, making grabbing motions, and Rachel's face flushed. "She does that to everyone. She's friendly." "Too friendly, probably." Rachel bounced the baby gently. "Do you want to come in? It's not much. If you're comfortable with that." Rachel hesitated, then nodded and opened the door wider. The apartment was small, barely 500 square feet, but meticulously clean despite its obvious poverty. A worn couch, a small TV on a plastic crate, and a corner dedicated to Lily with a playpen and scattered toys. The walls were thin enough that Tank could hear a couple arguing next door. "Sorry it's so cramped," Rachel said, setting Lily back in the playpen. "And cold. The heater broke." "I've seen worse," Tank said honestly. He'd lived worse. Rachel gestured to the couch. "Sit. Please. Can I get you anything? Water?" "I have water." "I'm good." Tank sat carefully, the couch creaking under his weight. "You said your boss called?" Rachel's face crumpled slightly, but she held it together. She sat in the folding chair across from him, the only other seat in the room. "Yeah. He's cutting my hours to 15 a week starting Monday. Says business is slow and he has to make adjustments." She laughed bitterly. "Adjustments? Like I'm a budget line, not a person. That's not enough to live on." "No. It's not." Rachel's voice cracked. "My rent is $400 a month. I'm already 2 weeks late. My landlord, Mr. Kowalski, he's been patient, but he came by yesterday warning me. Said he can't wait forever." Tank felt anger rising in his chest. Not at Rachel, at the whole damn system designed to keep people like her drowning. "What about assistance? Government programs?" "I applied. I'm on a waiting list." "Everything's a waiting list." Rachel rubbed her eyes. "And there's something else. Something worse. Your ex?" She looked up sharply. "How did you?" "Right, I mentioned him last night." She took a shaky breath. "Evan texted me this morning. He's in town. He wants to see Lily." "Does he have rights?" "No. He signed away his parental rights before she was born. Didn't want anything to do with us." Rachel's hands trembled. "But now he's saying he's changed. That he wants to be involved." "Tank, I know him. He doesn't care about Lily. He's running from something. I can feel it." As if on cue, Rachel's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her face went pale. "It's him," she whispered. Tank leaned forward. "What's he saying?" Rachel read the text aloud, her voice hollow. "I'll be at your place tonight. We need to talk about our daughter. Don't try to stop me. I have rights." He just said he has rights after admitting he signed them away. Evan doesn't care about facts. He cares about getting what he wants. Rachel looked at Tank with fear in her eyes. "He's not a good person. When we were together, he had a temper. He never hit me, but he'd punch walls. Break things. Scream until I was shaking." Tank's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. He knew men like Evan. Bullies who got off on control. "You don't have to see him alone," Tank said quietly. "What?" "I'll stay. If you want. Just until you figure out what his angle is. Rachel stared at him like he'd just offered her the moon. You'd do that? You don't even know me. I know enough. Before Rachel could respond, Lily started crying, a sharp, distressed sound. Rachel jumped up and felt the baby's forehead. She's warm. Oh no, she's running a fever, panic filled Rachel's voice. She was fine an hour ago. Tank stood. You have a thermometer? Yes, but, Rachel was already moving, pulling a digital thermometer from a drawer. She took Lily's temperature, 1008 degrees Fahrenheit. Is that bad? Tank asked. For a baby this young, it could be. I should take her to urgent care, but I don't have insurance that covers it fully. Rachel looked like she might cry. The copay is $75. Everything was crashing down on her at once. Tank could see it in her face, the breaking point approaching. He pulled out his wallet. Tank, no. Take her to urgent care. Right now, he handed her $100 bill. I'll wait here in case Evan shows up early. I can't keep taking money from you. Rachel, Tank's voice was firm but gentle. Your baby's sick. Everything else can wait. Go. Rachel looked at the money, at Lily's flushed face, at Tank's steady gaze. Then she nodded, grabbed her keys and the diaper bag, and headed for the door. Thank you, she whispered. Go, Tank said. And then she was gone, leaving Tank alone in the cold apartment, waiting for a man he'd never met but already knew he was going to have a problem with. Tank waited in the apartment for 20 minutes after Rachel left, but the silence made him restless. He could feel the tension building in his shoulders, the familiar edge that came before confrontation. He stepped outside onto the metal walkway, leaning against the railing where he could watch both Rachel's door and the parking lot below. The afternoon sun was weak, doing nothing to cut through the November chill. A few residents came and went, most giving him wide berth. A young mother with 2 kids hurried past without making eye contact. An older man in a bathrobe shuffled by and muttered something that might have been a greeting or a curse, Tank couldn't tell which. His phone buzzed. Rachel. Rachel, doctor says it's just a mild virus. She'll be okay. Getting some infant Tylenol and we'll be home in 30 minutes. Tank felt relief wash through him. Tank, good. Take your time. I'm here. He pocketed his phone and checked his watch, 12:15 p.m. His brothers would be at the hospital rally by now, setting up tables for the toy drive, talking to families. He should have been there. That was his world, the one that made sense. This was complicated. But as Tank looked at the peeling paint on Rachel's door, at the broken plastic chair someone had left in the corner of the walkway, he knew he couldn't leave. Not yet. The rumble of an engine made him look down at the parking lot. A beat-up Chevy Malibu pulled in, primer gray with a missing bumper. The driver killed the engine and sat there for a moment before getting out. Evan. Tank knew it instantly. The guy had that look, wiry build, jerky movements, eyes that scanned the parking lot like he was expecting trouble. He wore a stained hoodie and jeans that hung too low. As he walked toward Building C, he pulled out his phone, typing something. Tank's own phone buzzed. Rachel, Evan just texted. He says he's at the apartment. Please don't answer the door. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Too late. Evan was already climbing the stairs. Tank straightened up, moving away from the railing to stand directly in front of Rachel's door. He crossed his arms and waited. Evan reached the second-floor landing and froze when he saw Tank. His eyes went wide, taking in all 6'4" and 250 pounds of tattooed biker blocking his path. The hell are you? Evan said, trying to sound tough but his voice cracked slightly. Friend of Rachel's, Tank said evenly. She's not here. Friend? Evan's face twisted into a sneer. Rachel doesn't have friends. And she definitely doesn't have biker trash hanging around my daughter. Tank felt his temper flare but kept his voice calm. Your daughter? That's funny. I heard you signed away your rights before she was born. Evan's face flushed red. That's none of your business. Get out of my way. No. Listen, man, I don't want trouble. I just want to talk to Rachel about Lily. She'll be back soon. You can wait down there. Tank nodded toward the parking lot. Evan took a step closer, his chest puffed out. I don't take orders from some Hell's Angels reject. This is between me and Rachel. So move. Tank didn't move an inch. You're not going in that apartment. Who's gonna stop me? You? Evan pulled out his phone. I'll call the cops. Tell them some biker's threatening me. Go ahead. Tank's voice was cold. Call them. Tell them you're trying to force your way into an apartment where you have no legal right to be. Tell them you're harassing the mother of a child you abandoned. See how that works out for you. Evan's jaw worked, his eyes darting between Tank and the door. Tank could see the calculation happening, weighing his options, his pride against his self-preservation. A door opened 3 apartments down. A middle-aged woman in a floral dress poked her head out. Everything okay out here? She called nervously. Everything's fine, ma'am, Tank said without taking his eyes off Evan. The woman looked unconvinced but didn't press. Her eyes lingered on Tank's leather vest, and Tank saw her hand move toward her phone before she retreated back inside. Great. Someone was probably calling the cops right now. Evan saw it too and smirked. Looks like the police are coming anyway. We'll see who they believe, a concerned father or a criminal biker harassing people. I'm not harassing anyone. I'm standing on a public walkway. Blocking me from seeing my daughter. You mean the daughter you wanted nothing to do with? The one you've never paid a dime for? That daughter? Evan's face contorted with rage. You don't know anything about me. I know exactly what you are, Tank said quietly. You're the kind of man who runs when things get hard and comes back when it's convenient. You don't want Lily. You want something from Rachel. Evan started forward, his fist clenched. Tank didn't move. Didn't flinch. Just stood there, immovable as stone. Evan stopped inches away, breathing hard. Up close, Tank could see the desperation in his eyes. The fear. You're in trouble, Tank said. It wasn't a question. Evan's expression flickered. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you do. Whatever hole you've dug yourself into, you think Rachel or Lily can help you climb out. But they can't. And they won't. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Evan stepped back, his hands shaking. This isn't over. Rachel can't keep me from my daughter. She's not keeping you from anyone. You left on your own. The sirens were louder now, maybe 2 blocks away. Evan pointed at Tank, his finger trembling. Stay out of this. This is family business. Then act like family. Leave them alone. The police cruiser pulled into the parking lot, lights flashing. 2 officers got out, hands resting on their belts as they assessed the situation. Evan immediately changed his demeanor, his face shifting to concern. Officers. Thank God you're here. This man has been threatening me and won't let me see my daughter. Tank kept his hands visible and his voice calm. That's not what happened. The officers exchanged a glance. The older one, a thick-necked guy with graying hair, addressed Tank first. Sir, can you step away from the door please? Tank complied, moving to the side but staying on the walkway. He knew how this worked. He knew what they saw when they looked at him. The younger officer, a woman with sharp eyes, looked at Evan. You live here, sir? My ex-girlfriend does. And my daughter. I just wanted to visit and this guy attacked me. I didn't touch him, Tank said evenly. Not once. The female officer looked between them. Anyone else see what happened? The door 3 apartments down opened again. The woman in the floral dress stepped out hesitantly. I saw some of it, she said quietly. The big man didn't attack anyone. He was just standing there. The other one was yelling and getting aggressive. Evan's face went white. That's not, she doesn't know what she's talking about. The older officer held up his hand. Everyone calm down. Let's sort this out without drama. Tank heard footsteps on the stairs. Rachel appeared, Lily in her arms, her face pale with fear when she saw the police cars. What's happening? She whispered. And Tank realized that everything was about to get a whole lot more complicated. Rachel's eyes darted between the 2 police officers, Evan and Tank. Lily squirmed in her arms, still feverish and fussy from the doctor's visit. Ma'am, do you live here? The female officer asked. Yes. This is my apartment. What's going on? Rachel's voice shook. Evan stepped forward immediately. Rachel, thank God. I've been trying to see you and Lily, but this guy, he jabbed a finger toward Tank, has been blocking me and threatening me. That's a lie, Rachel said sharply. The words came out before she could stop them. The older officer raised his eyebrows. You know both these men? Tank is my friend. He's helping me. Evan is, she paused, choosing her words carefully. Evan is Lily's biological father, but he has no custody rights. He signed them away before she was born. She's lying, Evan said desperately. I never signed anything. I've been trying to be part of my daughter's life and she's keeping me away. Now she's got this criminal helping her. The younger officer looked at Tank. Sir, what's your name? Marcus Holloway. Do you have ID? Tank slowly reached into his vest pocket and pulled out his wallet, handing over his driver's license. The officer examined it, then walked a few feet away to run it through her radio. The older officer focused on Rachel. Ma'am, is there a custody agreement we can verify? Yes. I have the documents inside. Evan signed a voluntary termination of parental rights at the county courthouse. I can show you. I never signed that. Evan's voice rose. She forged it or something. I don't know. But I have rights to see my daughter. Then why haven't you seen her in 8 months? Rachel's anger was building. Why haven't you paid a single dollar in support? Why did you tell me to get rid of it when I told you I was pregnant? Evan's face flushed. I was scared. I made mistakes. But I'm here now, trying to make it right, and you've got some biker gang member intimidating me. I'm not in a gang, Tank said calmly. And I didn't intimidate anyone. I told him to wait in the parking lot until Rachel got home. The female officer returned, handing Tank his license back. Mr. Holloway, you're clear. No warrants, she glanced at her partner meaningfully. The older officer seemed slightly disappointed. Tank was used to that look too. Ma'am, the female officer said to Rachel, can you get those documents? Yes, of course, Rachel fumbled with her keys, unlocking her door. Tank moved to help her, taking Lily gently. The baby immediately stopped fussing, grabbing at Tank's beard with tiny fists. Rachel disappeared inside while the officers waited. Evan stood with his arms crossed, jaw clenched. This is harassment, Evan muttered. All I want is to see my kid. Then why didn't you come during the day like a normal person? Tank said quietly. Why show up making demands? I don't have to explain myself to you. The younger officer shot them both a warning look. Gentlemen, let's keep this civil. Rachel emerged with a manila folder, her hands shaking as she pulled out several documents. This is the termination agreement. It's signed and notarized. And this is a letter from Evan. She pulled out a wrinkled piece of paper, that he sent me when I was 6 months pregnant, telling me he wanted nothing to do with me or the baby. The female officer took the documents, reading through them carefully. She showed the termination agreement to her partner. This looks legitimate, she said. It's been filed with the county. Evan's face went from red to pale. I was pressured into signing that. I didn't understand what it meant. You were 27 years old, Rachel said coldly. You understood perfectly. The older officer looked at Evan. Sir, according to this document, you have no legal right to be here demanding access to the child. If you want custody or visitation, you need to go through the courts. This is bullshit. Evan exploded. She's poisoning my daughter against me. Your daughter is 8 months old, the female officer said flatly. She's not poisoned against anyone. Sir, I'm going to ask you to leave the premises. If you refuse, we'll have to escort you out. You're taking her side because of what? Because some biker thug is standing here looking tough? The older officer's expression hardened. Sir, we're taking the side of the law. The documents are clear. You need to leave. Evan looked at Rachel, his eyes filled with something between rage and desperation. You're going to regret this. I'm getting a lawyer. I'm taking you to court. And when I'm done, you won't have Lily anymore. Rachel's arms tightened around the folder. Get out, Evan. I mean it, Rachel. You think you can just cut me out? I'll prove you're an unfit mother. Living in this dump, barely making rent, hanging around with criminals, he gestured at Tank. Any judge will see you can't take care of her. Tank stepped forward, still holding Lily. His voice was low and controlled. You need to walk away. Now. The two men locked eyes. The officers tensed, hands moving closer to their belts. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Evan turned and stormed toward the stairs, his footsteps echoing on the metal steps. This isn't over, he shouted back. They watched him get in his car and peel out of the parking lot, tires squealing. The female officer turned to Rachel. Ma'am, I'd recommend filing for a restraining order if he continues to harass you. And document everything, texts, calls, visits. Everything. Rachel nodded numbly. I will. Thank you. The older officer looked at Tank, sizing him up one more time. Mr. Holloway, you handled that well. Kept your cool. Not everyone would. I've had practice, Tank said simply. The officer almost smiled. I bet you have. He handed Rachel his card. If he comes back, call us immediately. Don't engage with him. I won't. The officers left, their cruiser pulling away slowly. The woman in the floral dress gave Rachel a small wave before disappearing back into her apartment. The walkway fell silent. Rachel looked at Tank, still holding Lily, and something broke inside her. Tears started streaming down her face. Hey, Tank said gently. It's okay. He's gone. For now, Rachel whispered. But he meant it, Tank. He's going to try to take her from me. And look at me, look at this place. What judge wouldn't think a baby deserves better than this? Tank shifted Lily to one arm and put his other hand on Rachel's shoulder. Any judge with half a brain would see that baby is loved and cared for. That's what matters. Is it? Rachel's voice cracked. Because love doesn't pay rent. Love doesn't buy formula. And love won't stop Evan if he's serious. Lily made a soft cooing sound and reached for Rachel. Tank handed her back carefully. We'll figure it out, Tank said. Rachel looked up at him with exhausted, grateful eyes. Why are you doing this? You don't owe me anything. Tank thought about that 7-year-old boy knocking on doors, begging for help. Thought about all the closed doors. all the people who looked away. Maybe I'm just tired of people looking away, he said quietly. Rachel wiped her eyes and managed a weak smile. Thank you. For everything. For standing up to him. For staying calm. The old me would have screamed and made it worse. You did good too. They stood there on the walkway, the afternoon sun beginning to sink lower in the sky. Inside the apartment, it was still cold. Outside, the world was still hard. But for just a moment, neither of them felt quite so alone. Rachel didn't go to work that day. She called Derek and told him Lily was sick, which was true enough. He'd sounded annoyed, which meant the important talk he wanted to have would probably be even worse now. She didn't care. After the confrontation with Evan and the police, she couldn't imagine leaving Lily with Mrs. Chen, the elderly neighbor who sometimes watched her for a few dollars. Tank had left shortly after the police, telling Rachel to call him if Evan came back. She'd watched him ride away on that massive motorcycle, wondering if she'd ever see him again. The next morning, Rachel woke to Lily's babbling and her phone buzzing with a text from Derek. Derek, need you to come in today before your shift. 1 p.m. Don't be late. It was 9 a.m. She had 4 hours to mentally prepare for whatever bad news was coming. Rachel fed Lily, gave her the Tylenol the doctor had prescribed, and tried to make herself presentable. The fever had broken during the night, and Lily seemed much happier. At least one thing was going right. By 12:30, Rachel had dropped Lily off with Mrs. Chen and was walking the 6 blocks to Riverside Grocery. The November wind cut through her thin jacket. She'd sold her car 3 months ago to make rent. The grocery store sat on a corner in downtown Millbrook, a small, independently owned place that couldn't compete with the Walmart 15 miles away. Half the shelves were understocked. The produce section had seen better days. Rachel entered through the back employee entrance and found Derek in his cramped office, surrounded by filing cabinets and the smell of stale coffee. Close the door, he said without looking up. Rachel's stomach nodded. She sat in the folding chair across from his desk. Derek finally looked at her. He was 45, balding, with the perpetually stressed expression of a man managing a dying business. Rachel, you're a good worker. You show up on time, you don't complain, you do what's asked. Thank you, she said carefully. But the store's not making it. Corporate, he gestured vaguely, as if corporate was some distant deity, is cutting costs everywhere. I've already let 2 people go. And now I have to cut hours across the board. Here it comes. Starting Monday, you're down to 12 hours a week. 2 6-hour shifts. Rachel felt the floor drop out from under her. 12 hours? Derek, I can barely survive on what I'm making now. I know. I'm sorry. If I had any other option. Can I pick up shifts in other departments? Stock, register, anything? There are no other shifts. Everyone's getting cut. Rachel's hands gripped the edge of the chair. Please. I have a baby. I need this job. Derek looked genuinely pained. I know you do. And I wish I could help. But my hands are tied. If the store doesn't turn a profit this quarter, corporate's shutting us down anyway. So what am I supposed to do? File for unemployment. Look for other work. I'll give you a good reference, he paused. Have you applied for assistance? I'm on a waiting list. Right, Derek rubbed his face. Look, I'll pay you for today even though you called out yesterday. That's the best I can do. Rachel stood, her legs shaky. When does this start? Monday. I'm sorry, Rachel. I really am. She left his office and walked through the store in a daze. 12 hours a week. Maybe $150 after taxes. Her rent alone was $400. The math was simple and brutal, she was going to lose her apartment. Rachel pushed through the front doors and into the cold afternoon air. She stood there on the sidewalk, trying to remember how to breathe. Rachel? She turned. Tank was walking toward her from across the street, carrying 2 paper coffee cups from Donna's Cafe, the only decent coffee shop in town. Tank? What are you doing here? He held out one of the cups. Figured you might need this. You said you worked at Riverside Grocery, so I took a chance. Rachel took the cup automatically, her brain struggling to process. You came back? Rally's over. Had some free time. He studied her face. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. Rachel's composure crumbled. They cut my hours. Down to 12 a week. I can't live on that. Tank's jaw tightened. When? Monday, she laughed bitterly. Perfect timing, right? Evan threatens to take Lily, and now I'm about to lose our apartment. Any judge is going to see that and give him custody. He's not getting custody. How do you know that? Because he's not a father. He's a deadbeat using his kid as leverage for something else. Tank paused. Come on. Let's sit down. He gestured to a bench outside the cafe. Rachel followed, too numb to argue. They sat, and she wrapped her hands around the warm cup. I looked him up last night, Tank said. Evan Prescott. Found some public records. Rachel looked at him sharply. You did what? Just basic stuff. Court records, social media. Rachel, the guy's got a history. Petty theft, bad checks, bounced rent payments. And he recently got named in a lawsuit, a poker debt collection. How much? $15,000. Rachel closed her eyes. So he doesn't want Lily. He wants to use her to hide assets or manipulate the situation somehow. That'd be my guess. Which means he's not going away. He's desperate. Rachel felt tears building again. And I'm about to be homeless. Even if Evan's a deadbeat, at least he can offer Lily stability. A judge might see that. You're not going to be homeless. Tank, I can't pay rent on 12 hours a week. So find another job. In Millbrook? This place is dying. Half the businesses on Main Street are closed. I've applied everywhere. Rachel's voice rose. I'm trapped. I'm completely trapped. Tank was quiet for a moment, watching people pass by on the sidewalk. Then he said, what if you had help? I can't keep taking your money. I don't mean money. I mean someone watching your back. Someone making sure Evan doesn't pull anything. Someone helping you figure out your next move. Rachel looked at him. Why would you do that? You've already done so much. Tank turned to meet her eyes. You know what I did last night after I left? I went to a motel and couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that police call. How they looked at me like I was the problem. How Evan tried to paint you as unfit because you're struggling. And I realized something. What? The world's full of people like Evan. People who take advantage of others, who manipulate systems, who hurt people and get away with it. And the world's also full of people like you, people trying their damnedest to do right and getting crushed anyway. He paused, his voice getting quieter. I spent 15 years running from my past. Building walls. Keeping people out. But sitting in that motel room, I realized I'm tired of running. And I'm tired of good people being alone when bad people never are. Rachel felt something shift in her chest. Tank, you barely know me. I know enough. And maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not supposed to wait until we know everything about someone before we help them. Maybe we just help and figure out the rest later. They sat in silence, sipping coffee as the afternoon sun broke through the clouds. I have to pick up Lily, Rachel finally said. I'll walk with you. As they stood and started down the sidewalk, Rachel felt something she hadn't felt in months, maybe years. Hope. It was fragile and small, but it was there. And for now, that was enough. 3 days passed quietly. Too quietly. Tank had gotten a motel room in Millbrook, the Sunrise Inn, which hadn't seen sunrise or fresh paint since the Reagan administration. He checked in with his club brothers, who gave him endless grief about his extended vacation, but they understood. Sort of. He spent his days helping Rachel strategize. They'd gone to legal aid together, where a tired attorney named Patricia Mills had explained Rachel's options. File for a protective order if Evan harassed her again. Document everything. Be prepared for a custody challenge. The good news, Patricia had said, is that his termination of parental rights is solid. The bad news is that he can still petition the court to reinstate them if he claims changed circumstances. What kind of changed circumstances? Rachel had asked. Sobriety, stable employment, genuine desire to be a parent. A judge would evaluate his petition. It's not easy, but it's possible. Tank had watched Rachel's face fall and wanted to punch something. Now it was Thursday afternoon, and Rachel was finishing her shift at the grocery store, one of her last full shifts before the hour cuts took effect. Tank was waiting outside, sitting on his motorcycle and scrolling through job listings on his phone, hoping to find something Rachel could apply for. His phone buzzed. Rachel. Rachel, he's here. Evan's in the parking lot. Tank was off his bike and moving before he consciously decided to. He rounded the corner to the employee parking lot behind the store and saw Rachel standing next to her manager Derek's car. She'd gotten a ride with him since she didn't have her own vehicle. Evan was there, blocking her path, his hands gesturing animatedly. Derek stood nearby, looking uncomfortable. Tank approached quickly but quietly, his boots crunching on the gravel. Just want to talk, Evan was saying, his voice pleading. 5 minutes, Rachel. That's all I'm asking. I have nothing to say to you, Rachel said firmly. And you're violating. Violating what? I'm in a public parking lot. I can be here. You're harassing her, Derek interjected weakly. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Evan ignored him, focusing on Rachel. I filed the paperwork. The petition to restore my parental rights. My lawyer says I have a good case. Rachel's face went pale. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. I made mistakes, but I'm getting my life together. I have a job lined up. I'm in counseling. The court will see that I'm committed. You're lying, Rachel said. You don't have a job. You don't have anything except debt and desperation. Evan's expression hardened. That's what you want to believe. But the truth is, you're the one who's unstable. Living in poverty, working minimum wage, barely keeping a roof over Lily's head. What kind of life is that for a child? It's a life with someone who loves her. Rachel's voice cracked. You abandoned us. And I'm trying to make it right. Evan stepped closer, his voice rising. But you won't even give me a chance. You've poisoned the situation, turned everyone against me. Back up, Tank said, his voice cutting through Evan's rant like a blade. Evan spun around, his face twisting when he saw Tank. You again. You're like a bad rash. Funny, I was thinking the same about you. Evan turned back to Rachel. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're associating with criminals, putting our daughter in danger. I'm not a criminal, Tank said evenly. And you need to step away from her. Or what? Evan's desperation was turning into aggression. You gonna hit me? Go ahead. Give me more ammunition for court. Derek cleared his throat nervously. Gentlemen, please. Let's all just calm down. Evan suddenly grabbed Rachel's arm. Just listen to me for 2 seconds. Tank moved fast. He stepped between them, his hand closing around Evan's wrist, not squeezing, not hurting, just stopping the contact. Let go of her, Tank said quietly. For a moment, their eyes locked. Evan's were wild, desperate. Tank's were ice cold. Evan released Rachel's arm and jerked away from Tank. You see this? He shouted at Derek. You're a witness. He assaulted me. He didn't assault anyone, Derek said, finding his spine. You grabbed Rachel. He stopped you. Now leave before I call the police. Call them. Evan's voice was getting shrill. Call them right now. Let them see what's happening here. Let them see how she's keeping me from my daughter with threats and intimidation. Rachel pulled out her phone. Fine. I'm calling them. Good. Evan was breathing hard, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold. Let them come. Let them see the truth. But as Rachel started dialing, something in Evan's expression changed. The anger cracked, revealing the fear underneath. Wait, he said. Wait, don't. Rachel paused, her finger hovering over the call button. Why not? You just said you wanted them here. Evan ran his hand through his hair, his bravado collapsing. I just want to see my daughter. Is that so wrong? You don't want to see her, Tank said. You want to use her. You don't know anything about me. I know you're running from something. I know you've got gambling debts you can't pay. I know you're desperate enough to try manipulating a custody situation to buy yourself time or leverage or whatever you think you're going to get out of this. Evan's face went white. Who the hell do you think you are? Someone who actually cares what happens to that little girl. Which is more than you can say. Evan looked between Tank and Rachel, his jaw working. Then he pointed at Rachel, his hand shaking. You think you've won? You think having this thug as your bodyguard makes you safe? His voice dropped lower, more menacing. You have no idea what I'm capable of when I'm backed into a corner, Rachel. No idea. Is that a threat? Derek asked, his voice high and nervous. It's a promise, Evan backed toward his car. I'm going to court. I'm getting custody. And when I do, you'll never see Lily again. He got in his car and peeled out of the parking lot, leaving tire marks on the asphalt. The three of them stood in silence for a moment. Derek exhaled shakily. Jesus. Rachel, I'm so sorry. I should've, I don't know, done more. It's okay, Rachel said quietly. You did what you could. Do you need me to file a police report? As a witness? Rachel looked at Tank. He nodded. Yes, Rachel said. I think we need to document all of this. Derek pulled out his phone. I'll call right now. As Derek walked away to make the call, Rachel turned to Tank. Her hands were shaking. He's really going to do it. He's going to fight for custody. Let him fight. He'll lose. How do you know? Because he's desperate and stupid. Desperate and stupid people make mistakes, Tank's voice softened. And because you're a good mother. Any judge with eyes will see that. I hope you're right. Tank glanced at the spot where Evan's car had been. But we need to be careful. He's cornered, and cornered animals are dangerous. Rachel wrapped her arms around herself. I'm scared, Tank. I know. But you're not alone. Police sirens echoed in the distance, growing closer. Rachel closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Thank you, she whispered. For being here. For staying. Tank wanted to tell her it was nothing. That he'd have done it for anyone. But that would have been a lie. The truth was more complicated. The truth was that somewhere between that first desperate text message and this moment in a parking lot, Rachel and Lily had stopped being strangers he was helping. They'd become something more. Something that mattered. And Tank wasn't walking away from that. Not now. Not ever. That evening, Rachel sat in her apartment with her laptop balanced on her knees, staring at the screen. Lily was asleep in her crib, finally peaceful after a fussy day. The police had taken statements from all three of them, and Evan's threat had been documented. But documentation didn't make Rachel feel any safer. She typed Marcus Holloway Millbrook into the search bar, then deleted it. Then typed it again. She felt guilty for looking. Tank had been nothing but kind to her. But Evan's words kept echoing in her head: criminal biker, dangerous, unfit. What if he was right? What if she was trusting someone she shouldn't? Rachel hit enter. The first results were news articles, and her eyes widened as she read the headlines. Local motorcycle club raises $50,000 for children's hospital. Bikers deliver Christmas toys to foster kids. Tank Holloway, the gentle giant behind the leather. Rachel clicked on the last one. It was a feature article from the Nashville Herald, published 2 years ago. The photo showed Tank standing in front of Vanderbilt Children's Hospital, surrounded by kids in hospital gowns. He was smiling, a real smile that transformed his entire face, and a little girl with a bald head was sitting on his shoulders, wearing his leather vest. Rachel started reading. Marcus Tank Holloway doesn't look like your typical philanthropist. Standing 6'4" with arms covered in tattoos and a beard that would make a lumberjack jealous, Holloway is often judged before he opens his mouth. But the children at Vanderbilt Children's Hospital know better. To them, Tank is a hero. He comes every month, says Dr. Sarah Chen, head of pediatric oncology. He brings toys, reads stories, and just sits with kids who need someone. Some of these children are scared of their own shadows, but they light up when Tank walks in. Holloway grew up in Nashville's foster care system after his mother lost custody due to substance abuse. He experienced homelessness, hunger, and neglect, experiences that shaped his mission today. Nobody helped me when I needed it, Holloway says. I was just another throwaway kid. I don't want any child to feel that way. If I can make one kid smile, make one kid feel like they matter, then all the stares and judgment are worth it. His motorcycle club, Iron Riders, has raised over $200,000 for children's hospitals and foster care programs in the past 5 years. But Holloway insists it's not about the money. It's about showing up, he says. That's all kids really need, someone to show up and stay. Rachel felt tears streaming down her face before she realized she was crying. She clicked through more articles, more photos. Tank at toy drives. Tank visiting schools. Tank speaking at a fundraiser about childhood trauma. Every article told the same story, a man misjudged by his appearance who turned his pain into purpose. She found a video interview and clicked play. Tank sat in a folding chair, clearly uncomfortable being filmed, answering questions from a young journalist. Why do you think people judge you based on how you look? The journalist asked. Tank rubbed his beard thoughtfully. Because it's easier than getting to know someone. Easier to make assumptions than to do the work. I get it. I look scary. But scary's just packaging. What matters is what's inside. Do you ever get angry about it? Sometimes. But anger doesn't change minds. Actions do. So I just keep showing up, keep helping, and eventually people see past the leather and the tattoos. He paused. And if they don't, that's their loss, not mine. What would you say to people who've judged you unfairly? Tank looked directly at the camera. I'd say everyone's fighting battles you can't see. Everyone's got pain they're carrying. Maybe instead of judging each other, we could try helping each other. Revolutionary concept, I know. The journalist laughed. Do you have any regrets? Tank's expression shifted, becoming more serious. I regret not helping myself sooner. I spent years angry at the world, building walls, keeping people out. I thought if I stayed hard and closed off, I couldn't get hurt. But all that did was make me lonely. Now I try to stay open. Stay soft where it counts. It's scarier, but it's better. Rachel paused the video, her hand over her mouth. This was the man Evan had called a criminal. This was the man the police had looked at with suspicion. This was the man who'd crossed state lines to make sure a stranger and her baby were safe. She grabbed her phone and texted him. Rachel, I just Googled you. 3 dots appeared immediately. Tank, oh boy. Find anything interesting? Rachel, why didn't you tell me? Tank, tell you what? Rachel, about all the charity work. The children's hospital. Everything. Tank, didn't seem relevant. Rachel, not relevant? Tank, you're basically a local hero. Tank, I'm really not. I just help where I can. Rachel, you do more than help. You've changed lives. There was a longer pause. Tank, you doing okay? After today? Rachel smiled through her tears. Even now, he was deflecting, making it about her instead of him. Rachel, I'm doing better now. Thank you for earlier. And thank you for being who you are. Tank, just a guy trying to do right. Rachel, you're more than that. The kids at that hospital know it. I know it. Tank, get some sleep, Rachel. Tomorrow's a new day. Rachel, will you come by tomorrow? I want Lily to get to know you properly. Tank, you sure about that? Rachel, I've never been more sure of anything. Tank, then I'll be there. 10 a.m. Rachel, perfect. Good night, Tank. Tank, good night. Rachel set her phone down and looked at her sleeping daughter. Lily's tiny chest rose and fell peacefully, completely unaware of the storms gathering around her. You've got people in your corner, baby girl, Rachel whispered. Good people. Real people. And we're going to be okay. She closed her laptop and turned off the lights. For the first time in days, maybe months, Rachel felt something other than fear. She felt protected. The next morning, Tank arrived at exactly 10 a.m. with a bag of groceries and a stuffed elephant bigger than Lily herself. You didn't have to do that, Rachel said, but she was grinning. Yeah, I did. Tank set the groceries on the counter. Figured you could use some help stocking up. Lily was in her playpen, and when she saw Tank, she immediately raised her arms, demanding to be picked up. Tank looked at Rachel for permission. She nodded. He lifted Lily gently, and she immediately grabbed his beard with both hands, giggling. Tank made an exaggerated face of pain, which made Lily laugh harder. Rachel watched them, her heart swelling. This giant of a man, tattooed and leather-clad, holding her daughter with such tenderness, it was beautiful. She likes you, Rachel said softly. The feeling's mutual, Tank bounced Lily gently. She's got your smile. And her father's eyes, unfortunately. Nah. She's got your eyes. Brave eyes. Rachel felt herself blushing. I'm not brave. You're the bravest person I know. Tank met her gaze over Lily's head. You're fighting for your kid against someone who should be helping you. You're working yourself to exhaustion to keep her fed. You're standing up when most people would have collapsed. That's brave. I'm terrified every single day. Brave people usually are. Courage isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing it anyway. Lily yawned, snuggling against Tank's chest. Within minutes, she was asleep, her tiny hand fisted in his shirt. She's never fallen asleep that fast with anyone but me, Rachel whispered, amazed. I've got practice. Used to volunteer in the hospital nursery. Something about the deep voice and big arms, babies feel safe. Rachel gestured to the couch. Sit. Carefully. Don't wake her. Tank lowered himself onto the couch like he was defusing a bomb, keeping Lily perfectly still. Rachel sat beside him, watching her daughter sleep against this unlikely protector. Tank, she said quietly. When this is over, when Evan's dealt with and things settle down, what happens? What do you mean? I mean, you've got a life. A club. Places to be. You can't stay in Millbrook forever. Tank looked down at the sleeping baby, then at Rachel. His expression was unreadable. I haven't figured that part out yet, he admitted. But I'm not leaving until I know you're both safe. That's a promise. And after that? After that, Tank trailed off, then met her eyes. After that, we'll see. It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't a commitment. But it was honest. And for Rachel, it was enough. 2 weeks later, Rachel stood outside the Hamilton County Courthouse holding a manila envelope that would determine her entire future. Inside were the documents for Evan's petition to restore his parental rights and his emergency motion for temporary custody. Tank stood beside her, wearing the cleanest clothes she'd ever seen him in, dark jeans, a button-down shirt, and his leather vest left behind at the motel. He'd even trimmed his beard. But he still looked like exactly what he was, a biker trying to look respectable. You ready? He asked. Rachel's hands shook. No. But let's do this anyway. Patricia Mills, the legal aid attorney, met them in the lobby. She looked tired and overworked, carrying a briefcase that had seen better days. Okay, here's what's going to happen, Patricia said, speaking quickly. This is just a preliminary hearing. The judge will hear both sides and decide if Evan's petition has merit. If it does, we move to a full custody evaluation. If it doesn't, it gets dismissed. What are our chances? Rachel asked. Patricia hesitated. Honestly? It could go either way. Evan's lawyer is claiming he's made significant changes: employment, counseling, stable housing. If the judge believes he's sincere about being a parent, they might give him a chance. But he signed away his rights, Tank said. Yes, but the law allows for restoration in cases of demonstrated rehabilitation. It's rare, but it happens. Patricia looked at Rachel. Be prepared for them to attack your character. Your finances, your living situation, your associations. She glanced at Tank. They'll use everything. Rachel felt sick. Okay. They entered the courtroom. It was smaller than Rachel had imagined, with wooden benches and fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly. Evan sat at the plaintiff's table with his attorney, a sharp-dressed woman named Veronica Pierce who looked like she cost more than Rachel made in a year. How was Evan affording her? Evan turned and locked eyes with Rachel. He looked different, cleaned up, wearing a suit, his hair neatly combed. He looked like a concerned father. Rachel's stomach twisted. All rise for the Honorable Judge Catherine Brennan. Everyone stood as the judge entered, a woman in her 50s with gray hair and piercing eyes that seemed to see everything. Be seated. Case number 2024, FC, 1847, Prescott v. Harper, Petition for Restoration of Parental Rights and Emergency Custody. Ms. Pierce, you may begin. Veronica Pierce stood smoothly. Thank you, Your Honor. My client, Evan Prescott, comes before this court with deep remorse for his past mistakes and a genuine desire to be a father to his daughter, Lily. When Ms. Harper became pregnant, Mr. Prescott was in a dark place, struggling with addiction, unemployment, and mental health issues. Rachel's jaw dropped. Addiction? Evan had never been an addict. In a moment of fear and weakness, Pierce continued, he made the devastating decision to terminate his parental rights. But since that time, Mr. Prescott has transformed his life. He's been sober for 8 months, he's completed a parenting course, he's in regular therapy, and he's secured stable employment. She produced documents, handing copies to the judge and Patricia. These are certificates from Serenity Path Recovery Center, completion papers from the Tennessee Parenting Institute, and a letter of employment from Prescott Automotive Services. Patricia leaned over to Rachel. "Is any of this true?" she whispered. "I don't know about sobriety, he was never using. But the rest? I have no idea." Pierce wasn't finished. "Your Honor, Mr. Prescott is not trying to disrupt Ms. Harper's life. He simply wants to be part of his daughter's life. However, we have serious concerns about the environment Ms. Harper is providing." Here it comes, Rachel thought. Ms. Harper is living in substandard housing, working minimal hours, and struggling financially to the point where she solicited money from strangers online. Pierce paused for effect. "Furthermore, she's associated with a known motorcycle club member," she gestured toward Tank in the gallery, "Marcus Holloway, who has been present during multiple confrontations with my client." "Objection," Patricia stood. "Mr. Holloway is not on trial here, and Ms. Harper's associations are not grounds for custody removal." Sustained, Judge Brennan said. "Ms. Pierce, stick to relevant facts." "Of course, Your Honor. The relevant fact is that Ms. Harper cannot provide stable housing, adequate income, or a safe environment. Mr. Prescott can offer all of those things. He's living with his parents in a 4-bedroom home, he has family support, and he can provide Lily with opportunities Ms. Harper simply cannot." Rachel felt tears building. Everything Pierce was saying was technically true, even if the context was completely wrong. Judge Brennan looked at Patricia. "Ms. Mills, your response?" Patricia stood, straightening her papers. "Your Honor, Mr. Prescott's sudden transformation is convenient but suspicious. He showed no interest in his daughter for 8 months, no support, no contact, no concern. Ms. Harper has been Lily's sole caregiver since birth, working multiple jobs to provide for her daughter despite financial hardship. Financial hardship she had to address by soliciting money from strangers," Pierce interjected. "One emergency situation," Patricia countered. "Which she handled." "Your Honor, Ms. Harper is a devoted mother who has sacrificed everything for her child. Mr. Prescott's petition appears less about parenting and more about manipulation." "That's a serious accusation," Judge Brennan said. "Do you have evidence?" Patricia hesitated. "We're investigating, Your Honor, but you don't have evidence currently?" "Not at this moment, no." Judge Brennan made a note. "Mr. Holloway, please stand." Tank stood, his face neutral. "Are you in a relationship with Ms. Harper?" "No, Your Honor. I'm a friend helping her through a difficult time." "A friend she met online after soliciting money?" Tank's jaw tightened. "I received a text by mistake. I chose to help. Since then, I've supported Ms. Harper in dealing with Mr. Prescott's harassment." "Harassment?" Pierce stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Prescott has been attempting to see his daughter, which is his right to petition for. Mr. Holloway has been physically intimidating Anne." "I've never threatened Mr. Prescott," Tank said firmly. "I've protected Ms. Harper from his aggression. There's a police report documenting his behavior." Judge Brennan held up her hand. "Everyone sit down. I've heard enough for today." The room fell silent. Mr. Prescott's petition has sufficient documentation to warrant further investigation. However, I'm not convinced that an emergency custody change is necessary at this time. She looked at Evan. "Mr. Prescott, I'm ordering supervised visitation, 2 hours per week at the Family Services Center. Ms. Harper retains primary custody pending a full evaluation." Rachel's relief was immediate but incomplete. Evan was getting access to Lily. Furthermore, the judge continued, "I'm ordering both parents to undergo evaluation by Dr. Michael Torres, a family psychologist. Home visits will be conducted, employment verified, and character references collected. We'll reconvene in 30 days. She banged her gavel. Court adjourned. Evan stood immediately, a smile spreading across his face. He'd gotten what he wanted, his foot in the door. Pierce gathered her papers smugly while Patricia looked frustrated. As they filed out of the courtroom, Evan walked past Rachel and whispered, "See you at visitation, Mommy." Rachel's blood ran cold. Outside the courthouse, Patricia pulled Rachel aside. "That went better than it could have, but worse than I hoped. The supervised visitation is good, it means the judge doesn't trust him fully. But the home evaluation is concerning given your financial situation. What do I do?" Rachel asked desperately. "Clean up your apartment. Get character references, employers, neighbors, anyone who can speak to your parenting." "And Rachel?" Patricia looked serious. "Find out what Evan's really after. People don't go to this much trouble and expense for custody they don't actually want." As Patricia walked away, Tank put his hand on Rachel's shoulder. "We'll figure this out," he said. But for the first time since they'd met, Rachel heard doubt in his voice. And that scared her more than anything. Tank sat in his motel room that night, staring at his laptop screen. The video was grainy but clear enough, security footage from the Riverside grocery parking lot showing Evan grabbing Rachel's arm. Tank had gotten a copy from Derek, who'd pulled it from the store's system. But it wasn't enough. Not against a lawyer like Veronica Pierce with fabricated recovery certificates and a polished story. Tank needed more. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found a name he hadn't called in 3 years, Jake Morrison. They'd served in the army together before Tank had gotten out and drifted into the motorcycle club life. Jake had gone the other direction, military police, then civilian investigation work. The phone rang 4 times before Jake answered. "Tank? That really you?" "Yeah, it's me. I need a favor." "Course you do." Nobody calls after 3 years to catch up, but Jake was smiling. Tank could hear it in his voice. "What kind of favor?" "Background check. Deep one. Guy named Evan Prescott, lives in or around Millbrook, Tennessee. This legal trouble? Custody case. He's going after a friend of mine, and something doesn't add up." Define doesn't add up. Tank explained the situation, the sudden petition, the expensive lawyer, the recovery certificates, the whole story. Jake listened without interrupting. "Send me everything you've got," Jake said when Tank finished. "Full name, date of birth if you have it, last known address. Give me 48 hours. Thanks, man. I owe you." "Yeah, you do. And Tank? Be careful. Custody cases get ugly fast." Tank hung up and forwarded all the information he'd gathered on Evan. Then he opened another tab and searched for something else, Veronica Pierce Attorney Tennessee. Her website was sleek and professional. Corporate law, family law, criminal defense. Her rate started at $400 per hour. Tank did the math. Between the lawyer, the recovery program certificates, and everything else, Evan had spent at least $10,000 on this custody petition. A man with $15,000 in gambling debts doesn't drop 10 grand on a custody case unless there's something bigger at stake. Tank kept digging. The next morning, Tank met Rachel at a coffee shop. She looked exhausted, holding Lily while trying to drink from a paper cup. "Supervised visitation is tomorrow," Rachel said. 2 hours at the Family Services Center. "I don't know if I can do this, Tank. I don't know if I can watch him hold her and pretend everything's fine." "You can. Because you're strong." Tank reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "And because I'll be right outside waiting for you." Rachel managed a weak smile. "The home evaluation is in 5 days. I cleaned the apartment top to bottom, but it's still a crappy apartment with a broken heater. I can fix the heater." "Tank, you've already." "I can fix the heater," he repeated firmly. "Give me your landlord's number." I'll talk to him about getting the parts. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing all this? Tank thought about that 7-year-old boy again. The one nobody helped. The one who grew up angry and alone. Because someone should have done it for me, he said quietly. And because you and Lily deserve better than what you're getting. His phone buzzed. A text from Jake, call me. Tank stepped outside and dialed. That was fast, Tank said. Yeah, well, your buddy Evan isn't exactly a criminal mastermind. He's sloppy, Jake's voice was grim. First, those recovery certificates? Fake. I called Serenity Path directly. They have no record of an Evan Prescott ever enrolling. Tank's jaw clenched. What about the employment letter? Prescott Automotive Services exists, but it's owned by his uncle, Raymond Prescott. I called pretending to be a creditor. The uncle said Evan doesn't work there, hasn't worked there, and quote, better not use my business for his BS. So everything in court was a lie. Every word. But here's where it gets interesting, Jake paused. Evan Prescott was named in a lawsuit 3 weeks ago, not for gambling debts like you thought. For embezzlement. Tank's blood went cold. From who? A guy named Vincent Calabrese. Ring any bells? No. Calabrese runs a construction company in Nashville. And by construction company, I mean money laundering operation with ties to organized crime. Evan worked there as a bookkeeper and allegedly skimmed $50,000 over 6 months. Jesus. Yeah. Calabrese filed a civil suit to recover the money, but word is he's not the patient type. Evan's got bigger problems than a lawsuit, he's got people looking for him who don't care about courts. Tank's mind raced. So the custody petition is a smokescreen. My guess? Evan thinks if he gets custody of the kid, he can use it to negotiate protection, leverage sympathy, or just disappear with some kind of legal justification. Maybe he thinks being a devoted father makes him look less like a thief on the run. He's using that baby as a shield. That'd be my read. I'm sending you all the documentation now, the civil suit, statements from Calabrese's lawyer, the fake certificates with timestamps showing when they were created. You've got enough here to blow his petition out of the water. Jake, thank you. Seriously. Just promise me you won't do anything stupid. Let the courts handle this. Tank thought about Evan's face in the courtroom, that smug smile. Thought about Rachel's terror. Thought about Lily being used as a bargaining chip. Yeah, Tank said. I'll let the courts handle it. But he was already planning something else. Tank contacted Samantha Wu, an investigative journalist for the Nashville Herald who'd written about his charity work years ago. She owed him a favor, he'd given her an exclusive interview that had won her an award. He sent her everything Jake had found, along with the parking lot security footage and copies of the police reports from Evan's harassment. This is good, Samantha said over the phone. Really good. But I need to verify everything before I publish. Give me 24 hours. You've got 12, Tank said. The home evaluation is in 5 days and visitation starts tomorrow. If this doesn't get exposed fast, that little girl's in danger. 12 hours. I'm on it. Tank hung up and called Patricia Mills next. He explained what Jake had found and that a journalist was verifying the story. If this is true, Patricia said, her voice energized for the first time, this changes everything. We can file an emergency motion to dismiss and request a protective order. How fast can you file? If I have solid documentation? By tomorrow morning. You'll have it. Tank's next call was harder. He dialed the Nashville Police Department and asked for the fraud division. When someone answered, he provided Vincent Calabrese's name and explained that Evan Prescott, wanted in connection with embezzlement, was currently involved in a custody case in Millbrook. We'll look into it, the detective said noncommittally. It would have to be enough. That evening, Tank knocked on Rachel's door with a toolbox and space heater parts. She let him in, Lily already asleep in her crib. "I've got news," Tank said. "Good news." He explained everything: Jake's investigation, the fake documents, the embezzlement, the journalist, Patricia's emergency filing. Rachel listened with growing disbelief. "He's been lying about everything?" "Everything. And by tomorrow afternoon, everyone will know it." Rachel sat down heavily on her couch. "So this is almost over?" "Should be. Patricia's filing the emergency motion. Once the judge sees Evan lied under oath and fabricated evidence, the petition gets dismissed. Probably gets hit with perjury charges too." Rachel put her face in her hands. Not crying, just overwhelmed. "I can't believe this. I thought I was going to lose her." Tank knelt in front of her, meeting her eyes. "You were never going to lose her. That little girl is yours, and anyone with eyes can see you're exactly the mother she needs. I was so scared." "I know. But you didn't break. You kept fighting." Rachel looked at him, really looked at him. This massive, tattooed biker who'd crossed state lines for a wrong number text. Who'd stood between her and danger. Who'd fought for her daughter like she was his own. Tank, she stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. Tank seemed to understand anyway. He stood and picked up his toolbox. "Let me fix that heater. It's supposed to get cold tonight." As he worked, Rachel watched him, feeling something shift in her chest. Something warm and terrifying and wonderful all at once. Whatever happened next, she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't alone anymore. And neither was he. The news broke at 6 a.m. Samantha Wu's article appeared on the Nashville Herald's website with a headline that made Rachel's hands shake as she read it on her phone. "Custody case built on lies. Man wanted for embezzlement uses fake documents to pursue daughter." The article was thorough and damning. It detailed Evan's fabricated recovery certificates, the fake employment letter, his embezzlement from Vincent Calabrese's company, and the civil suit seeking $50,000. It included statements from Serenity Path denying Evan had ever enrolled, quotes from his uncle confirming Evan didn't work for him, and excerpts from the lawsuit documents. But the final paragraph was what brought tears to Rachel's eyes. While Evan Prescott used the court system to manipulate a vulnerable single mother, that same mother found an unlikely ally in Marcus "Tank" Holloway, a local philanthropist known for his work with children's hospitals. Holloway, who happened to receive a desperate text from Rachel Harper by mistake, chose to help a stranger in need, proving that sometimes the people we judge most harshly are the ones with the biggest hearts. Rachel's phone rang. "Patricia Mills. Have you seen it?" Patricia asked, barely containing her excitement. "I'm reading it now. I filed the emergency motion an hour ago. The judge has already reviewed it along with the article and Jake Morrison's investigation. She's calling an emergency hearing at 10 a.m. Rachel, we've got him." The courtroom felt different this time. Evan sat alone at his table, no Veronica Pierce, no polished suit, just a wrinkled t-shirt and the expression of a trapped animal. His lawyer had withdrawn that morning after the article published. Judge Brennan entered, her face set in stone. "Mr. Prescott, stand." Evan stood shakily. "I've reviewed the evidence submitted by Ms. Harper's attorney, the investigative report by Mr. Morrison, and the article published this morning. I've also received confirmation from the Tennessee Bar Association that the documents you submitted, recovery certificates, employment verification, and counseling records, were fraudulent." Evan's face had gone gray. "Furthermore, I've been contacted by the Nashville Police Department regarding an active investigation into embezzlement charges against you. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Evan's mouth opened and closed. "Your Honor, I was desperate. I just wanted You wanted to use your daughter as a shield while you ran from criminal charges, Judge Brennan said coldly. You lied under oath in my courtroom. You fabricated evidence. You wasted this court's time and resources while traumatizing a woman who's doing everything possible to care for the child you abandoned. Your Honor, please. Your petition for restoration of parental rights is denied. The supervised visitation order is rescinded. You are permanently barred from contact with the minor child unless Ms. Harper consents otherwise. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for perjury charges. The gavel came down like thunder. Additionally, I'm issuing a protective order on behalf of Ms. Harper and her daughter. You are to have no contact with either of them. If you violate this order, you will be arrested immediately. Do you understand? Evan nodded mutely. Get out of my courtroom. As Evan shuffled out, 2 Nashville police detectives entered and approached him in the hallway. Through the courtroom windows, Rachel watched them place handcuffs on his wrists. It was over. Judge Brennan looked at Rachel, her expression softening slightly. Ms. Harper, I apologize that you had to endure this ordeal. For what it's worth, it's clear to me that your daughter is well cared for and deeply loved. I wish you both the very best. Thank you, Your Honor, Rachel whispered. Outside the courthouse, Rachel stood in the November sunshine, holding Lily close. Tank waited nearby, giving her space to process. Patricia shook Rachel's hand. This is the best outcome we could have hoped for. Evan's facing criminal charges, you've got a protective order, and your custody is secure. You did it, Rachel. We did it, Rachel said, looking at Tank. I couldn't have done this without help. Patricia followed her gaze and smiled. You're right about that. Mr. Holloway, you should consider a career in investigation. You built one hell of a case. Tank shrugged. Just made some calls. Well, keep making them. The world needs more people willing to help. Patricia headed to her car, leaving Rachel and Tank alone. Rachel shifted Lily to her other hip and walked over to Tank. So. It's over. Yeah. It's over. Which means you can go back to your life. Your club. The rallies and the work you do. You don't have to stay in Millbrook anymore. Tank was quiet for a moment, looking out at the town square, the small shops, the fading paint, the quiet streets. Funny thing, he said finally. I've been thinking about that. About where I belong. And I realized something. I've spent 15 years riding around helping strangers. Going to rallies, raising money, visiting hospitals. All good things. Important things. But always temporary. Always moving on before I got too attached. He looked down at Lily, who was reaching for his beard again, and smiled. But maybe I'm tired of temporary. Maybe I want something that lasts. Rachel's heart hammered in her chest. Tank, what are you saying? I'm saying Millbrook's not so bad. I'm saying I could use a change. I'm saying, he met her eyes, I'm saying I'd like to stick around. If that's okay with you. Stick around for how long? However long you'll have me. Rachel felt tears building, but this time they were happy ones. I'd like that. Lily would like that too. As if agreeing, Lily made a happy gurgling sound and lunged from Rachel's arms toward Tank. He caught her instinctively, and she immediately started babbling nonsense while patting his face. See? Rachel laughed. She's already claiming you. Smart kid, Tank bounced Lily gently. So what happens now? Now? I need to find a better job, fix my apartment properly, and figure out how to give Lily the life she deserves. Sounds like a lot of work. It is. Good thing you've got help. Tank shifted Lily to one arm and offered Rachel his other hand. Come on. Let's start with lunch. My treat. Rachel took his hand, feeling the calluses and the strength, and something inside her finally settled. For months, years, really, she'd been fighting alone, drowning alone, surviving alone. Not anymore. They walked through downtown Millbrook, an unlikely family, a struggling single mother, a biker with a heart of gold, and a baby girl who'd brought them together. People stared. They always would. The tattoos, the leather vest Tank had put back on after court, the obvious differences between them, it all invited judgment. But Rachel didn't care anymore. Because she'd learned something important through all of this: the people who look dangerous sometimes aren't, and the people who look perfect sometimes are. You can't judge a person by their packaging. You have to look at their actions. And Tank's actions spoke louder than any words ever could. 1 week later, Tank moved out of the Sunrise Inn and into a small rental house on the edge of town. It had 2 bedrooms, a yard, and enough space for his motorcycle in the garage. Rachel and Lily came over to see it, and Lily immediately crawled across the empty living room floor, exploring every corner. "It's perfect," Rachel said. "It's a start." Tank leaned against the doorframe. "Figured I need a real base if I'm staying. The club brothers can visit when they want, but this," he gestured around, "this is home now." "Home," Rachel repeated, testing the word. It felt good. Tank's phone buzzed. A message from Reaper. "Reaper, heard you're settling down. About damn time, man. Bring Rachel and the kid to the next rally. We want to meet them." Tank showed Rachel the message. She smiled. "I'd like that. Meeting your family. They're loud and obnoxious and will probably embarrass me. So, family." Exactly. As the sun set through the windows, painting everything gold, Lily fell asleep on a blanket on the floor. Rachel sat beside her, and Tank sat beside Rachel. For the first time in longer than either could remember, everything felt right. "Tank?" Rachel said quietly. "Yeah. Thank you. For answering that text. For staying. For everything." Tank looked at this woman who'd texted a wrong number in desperation and somehow changed his entire life. "Thank you for sending it," he said. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Lily sleep, watching the light fade, watching their new life begin. A wrong number. A desperate message. A choice to help instead of ignore. And from that single moment of kindness, a family was born, not bound by blood or law, but by something stronger. By choice. By love. By showing up and staying. And that, Tank knew, was the greatest redemption of all.